gone, still on the ride. Mike and Need be side by side, talking thrills from coast to coast, celebrating what we love the most. Turn it up, feel the vibe, join the thrill of this ride. Hold on tight, it's time to go. Here it is, Coaster Radio.
This is your announcer, Neil Patrick Harris. Welcome to the 20th anniversary season of Coaster Radio. Here are your hosts, my close personal friends, Mike Collins and E.B.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the original theme park podcast. You are listening to Coaster Radio. My name is Mike. I am here with my friend E.B., ready to talk theme parks and thrill rides.
That's right, Mike. This is going to be a fun episode of CoasterRadio.com. We're going to be really nerding out, I feel like, on this episode of Coaster Radio because we are going to be talking to one of our very longtime friends here at CoasterRadio.com about not only their history with the podcast, the work that they've done with the industry, but also a fantastic trip report that I feel like people have been wanting to hear on Coaster Radio for a really long time. Our friend Nick Huston, composer of theme park music, is joining us to talk about his trip to the Middle East.
Yes. And this is a place, let's face it, you and I are probably not going to get there, right?
Nope.
I mean, there are a lot of places I want to visit. I would love to see Dubai, but it's not on the top of my list right now. I mean, it's kind of down. Maybe there are like 10 places I'd like to go before I go to Dubai. Although, fantastic theme parks there, and it's kind of just a amazing place. But you get the next best thing when you get a trip report from Nick Huston live on the show to tell you about all of these amazing parks that he went to, all these amazing attractions. Plus, we'll get to talk to him about, like you said, the music that he does for parks worldwide. Great stuff.
Yeah, we've been talking about the 20th anniversary of CoasterRadio.com. Here we are in the 20th season of CoasterRadio.com. And we've so enjoyed our longtime listeners coming back and telling us, I've been listening since I was a teenager. Nick is one of those listeners who came up with Coaster Radio when he was in school and then pursued a career in the industry listening to Coaster Radio. So it's a fantastic second half of the show, Mike. But let's really just buzz through some news so we can get to it. And let's start with our first drop.
Indeed. And one of the things I like when I go to parks, I like walking up to like a classic roller coaster and seeing that it has been named an ACE coaster landmark. Even though I'm not a member of ACE, when I see that plaque there, I know I am about to ride a roller coaster that a bunch of old dudes have it's a great
Some
thing.
Nerds have appreciated this thing. Get that sound up there. This is something that you walk up in the queue line, you see the plaque, and what do you say, Mike?
You're that nerd.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. So yeah, the ACE Coaster Landmarks. This is something that the American Coaster Enthusiast does every year since the year 2000. For the past 25 years, there are 50 coaster landmarks, so about 2 a year. There you go. The 2 that are being named coaster landmarks for their historical significance this year, American Eagle at Six Flags Great America and Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas.
Nice. Okay. Very good.
Now, have you ridden either of these, Mike?
I have not been on either of them because I've not been out to those parks. So this is now I'm like you're talking about me at the top of the show, saying places I want to go. There's some places I want to go check out those rides and those parks. They're both on my list. For sure.
Yeah, I don't want to call you out or anything like that, but okay.
I know, man.
The American Coaster Enthusiasts have decided that they are going to be naming as a coaster landmark American Eagle. This is the dueling roller coaster built in 1981 up there outside of Chicago at Six Flags Great America. It had a record-breaking drop of 147 feet at the time. It was the tallest and fastest racing wooden roller coaster in the world when it was built, with the longest track length of 9,300 feet of combined track.
Nice. Okay.
So that is the coaster landmark up there. And then the other coaster landmark that Ace is naming is Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas. It's a Werner Stengel, Anton Schwarzkopf double looping coaster built in 1978. world's tallest roller coaster, Mike, in 1978.
Wow.
116 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
That was the tallest roller coaster in the world. And what dethroned it in 1978, mere weeks later, Mike? What record-breaking roller coaster debuted in 1978?
Oh, what? Was it the Great American Revolution?
It was the Loch Ness Monster.
The Loch Ness Monster. Yes. There
Yes.
you go. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it was
the Revolution,
world's...
of course, was 76. Yeah. What am I thinking? Yes.
There you go. So yes, it was the world's tallest roller coaster, but only for like a couple of weeks, and then and then Loch Ness Monster opened and broke that record. So there you go. Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas, and American Eagle at Six Flags Great America are this year's Ace roller coaster landmarks. So
very good.
That's our first drop. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And no, I'm right there with you. Whenever I go into a queue line, and if you go to a lot of parks, you start to just stumble upon these plaques in the park. And so many of the GP just walk right past them. And then being a big dork, you stop. It's like, hold on, wait, we can't. We're like rushing with the rope drop, and you're running to the line, or you're trying to get up into the queue. And it's like, I have to read this plaque. Yeah. Hold on.
Let me see.
Word is
I need the stats. I need the stats. And by the way, at the beginning, I was just having a little fun at Ace's expense because, I mean, hey, we do a theme park podcast here, so we're right with them. So that was just, I appreciate Ace.
You're fine.
And I like all the stuff that they do. In fact, I saw EB, I don't know what you think about this. I was talking to my family about this minutes before coming down to the studio, but I saw on Reddit there was a thread going on where people were saying, tell me about some podcasts that I should listen to. Tell me about a podcast.
Oh, those are my favorite threads on Reddit. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so somebody said, I love Coaster Radio. It's a couple of geeky dads who have been talking theme parks for years. And I was like, geeky dads? Is that what we are? Like,
I don't want to be
geeky. I know.
I like nerd. Yeah. I'll be a dork. I want to be a geek.
Geek? I don't know. But so that's why I had a little laugh with Ace at the beginning because somebody called me a geeky dad today.
No, that's fine. But anytime there's a Reddit thread on r/roller coasters that says, what podcast should I listen to? That's the time that coasterradio.com listeners need to get on Reddit and say Coaster Radio and upvote.
Oh, yes. I love it.
Come on, get in there. Let's move on. Let's get to our quick hits.
Quick hits.
I like what you put here on the rundown, man. I was thinking by this time, we would be talking about King Dakar in smoldering ruins on the grounds of Six Flags Great Adventure. But no, the thing is still standing as of our record date here. But I was reading, I don't know if you saw the same thing. I think that Great Adventure extended the window for demolition all the way to March 1st.
Yeah, this is wild. So I guess the bad weather, and I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm here in the Midwest, and we are in the single digits this week. But in New Jersey at Six Flags Great Adventure, they're in the 30s this week, but they delayed the demolition of King Dakar, the world's tallest roller coaster at 456 feet, this tower that is still standing. They took away all the track already, but they were going to demo the tower by implosion. That permit was February 11th to 16th. And the Coaster Boys have been camping out in the parking lot, waiting for this to happen.
Yep, absolutely.
And it didn't happen because people were like, it's going to happen on Friday. It's the last work day of the week. Oh, it's going to happen on Saturday. It's the last day of the permit. Still hasn't happened here. Here we are recording the show Wednesday night. It still hasn't happened. And yeah, they've extended the permit, I guess. And there have been rumors of workers on the tower.
Oh.
Like literally crawling up the structure of the tower, like the doozers in Fraggle Rock, installing explosives.
Oh my gosh!
So it could be any day now. It may have already come down by the time you're hearing our voices.
Wow!
But yeah, this is just the anticipation is killing me, Mike.
Can you imagine that job? I mean, talk about hazard pay on so many levels. The first that you're climbing King Dakar, but then climbing it with explosives.
Yeah, I got a backpack full of dynamite that I'm just going to slap on there. Yeah, sure.
Jeez, man. Yeah, I'm with you. I saw hilariously some of the TikTokers going live from like 200 feet away from King Dakar. I don't know if they were on a service road or something, but they're pointing at it, and the guy's like, well, I thought it was going to be today, and I guess
any minute now.
Any minute now, guys. Just stay with me. Hit like and subscribe. And he's trying to like host the countdown, but nothing's happening, and he's just like, well, I guess I'll I guess I'll stay 5 more minutes. And
That's like
Yeah.
when you were a kid and you were like 2, 1, 1/2, 1/3,
yes, exactly.
1/4.
Oh, this poor dude. I almost wanted to record it so we could play it back on the show because it was like so sad. It was sad to me because he was just waiting.
Hey guys, I just named a roller coaster an Ace Landmark, but I'm here at the.
Yeah, here we go.
What a geek!
Really,
You're that nerd.
I'm really excited for Shockwave and American Eagle, but I'm waiting for King Ka to be imploded. We're doing a
gonna
Rick
happen.
Moranis. We're assigning him Rick Moranis. For
Hey
us, man.
guys,
Okay, who brought the dog? But this poor dude's out there, and he's trying to like keep the feed going and keep people hanging around.
yeah, it's like-
So he's like, I think I hear some sounds over there, and who knows what he's hearing, but it's not that. And like,
somebody lit a match, you guys. It's gonna be
Yeah.
any moment. The fuse is sparking.
I hear it going. Psst.
No.
No, nothing happened.
No, so-
But what made me laugh the most is like he's going to I apologize to everybody who's listening. Turn your kids,
Just
cover your
cracking
kids'
up.
ears, cover your kids' ears. But like the dude, so he's shutting off the feed, and he's obviously like really pissed that he wasted all this time. And so he's like, okay, guys, well, I'll come back next week and we'll see if we can catch it. And then like you see him fumbling with the phone, and then he goes, fuck. And then he's so mad.
He can't find the stop button.
No, and he's just mad that he wasted all that time out there.
Oh my gosh. We don't want to turn this into an off-topic episode of Coaster Radio here, but I stayed late at work this week one day, and I was there. It was almost 6 o'clock, and everybody at my office leaves at like 4:30. But I'm late, and my door is open, and somebody's walking down my coworker's walking down the hallway just as I'm putting my coat on, ready to go out of my office, and I just hear them, and apparently they're like getting an email or a text on their phone. And again, if we can mark this episode of Coaster Radio explicit, but this is a woman, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, Jesus Christ, people. Just as I'm walking out my office, and they thought it was an empty, dark hallway with the
Yes.
lights off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they saw me, and I was like, rough day.
Yeah.
And they were like,
Yeah.
and we walked out together, and we had
Yeah.
a moment. It was nice.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, it's that
Man.
same sort of thing where it's like your phone's not working right, nothing's going right for
Right.
you. You just drop out an expletive, and there it is.
Yeah.
All right.
So
let's
yeah,
move on here,
I
Mike.
really hope that dude does get the exclusiveness out there when it falls, man. But
the
how do you
expletives
even
for the
know?
explosives.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I really think I will say it. Great Adventure should be streaming this when it happens. Like, hey, bring people to
It's
your
so
website. Like,
surprising. I mean, the articles I was looking at about how this implosion was delayed, they were talking about how both the park and the demolition company have been so secretive and not communicating and not letting anybody know. And why? Why is it?
Yeah.
Is there like an inherent risk? Is there some sort of like, because when they blow the thing up, like a chunk of King Ka could go sailing off a half a mile, and I don't know.
I still like your idea, EP, of launching a train.
Then launch a train at the same time. I mean, the track is gone at this point, so it's too late for that. but
it's
anyway.
too bad. It's too
But
bad.
yeah. All right, let's move on here,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yes. So what do we got here? I love going to Pigeon Forge because there is a wide variety of attractions. I mean, of course, you've got Dollywood there, but then once you're outside, there's so much to do.
I mean, the coasterradio.com, Coaster Radio, the podcast, we've been around for 20 years. So we were here for the first ever Alpine coaster in the United States. And then they just blew up, right?
Yes,
So 2013,
remember?
I think, was the first year that a mountain coaster arrived in the Smoky Mountains, Pigeon Forge,
Right.
Gatlinburg, Sevierville. And now what is opening is, I think it's the 11th attraction with an Alpine coaster. And this is the first ever racing Alpine coaster. So
Oh.
it's two Alpine coasters next to each other. If you don't know, this is the one where it's just like the steel rails, and you're in the single person sled with like a handbrake.
Yeah.
Right? You've seen these online. You know what these
Mhm,
are.
mhm.
So, but this is the first one in Pigeon Forge, I guess, that is racing. So two side-by-side lift hills take you up to the top of the hill, the mountain, and then you go down side by side the entire time. The
Mhm.
finale is this 25-foot like triple helix that you're both racing down.
Oh.
And I'm just shocked that this is the first ever, not only in the Smoky Mountains, but the first ever in North America racing alpine coaster.
Yeah.
It seems so obvious that they should do this, but this is the first one. They announced the construction, put up some pictures in the fall and winter. It's opening. I saw something that said it was opening March 1st. Everything else where I saw it, it said it's opening in spring. So March seems kind of early, but yeah, this is kind of cool. I like this.
Yeah. I like these racing coasters, man. I especially like it because you can be as tame as you want, or you can just go wild and not use the brake the whole way down if you want. So,
well, and this is the thing, right? Where when you do these alpine coasters, I remember we did a Coaster Radio thing. We went to Goats on the Roof.
Yes,
when we went to Dollywood, right? That was one of the earlier ones, and you have to just take your hand off the brake. Just
you do, yeah.
That one had automatic brakes, and we were really mad about it. And I think we did a couple of other ones down there when we were there, but if it's racing and I don't touch the brake so I can win the race against whoever I'm racing against, is it going to automatically slow me down if the person in front of me is going too slow?
Yeah, I know that's the problem. That's always the problem with these. Yeah. Because if you get somebody who's like scared in front of you and they're like going,
and you get stuck behind them and there's like the automatic braking to keep you from bumping into them.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how this is going to work. It seems like a lot of fun, but it seems like it could be very problematic. I do like the fact that the Pigeon Forge Racing Coaster, the name not only of the racing coaster, but the attraction itself is just the racing coaster.
Yes, yeah.
The attraction is called Pigeon Forge Racing Coaster.
I love it. See? Yeah, simple, direct. That's all you need.
It is what it is.
I like it. I like it.
It's a good one.
Yeah. One last one here before we take a break. We finally have an opening date for the attraction we're looking forward to out in Las Vegas, Universal Horror Unleashed. It's opening August 14th, AEB. It'll be this summer, late summer. It'll be ready to go.
And this is multiple walkthroughs, but also like a bar and like an immersive experience in Area 15 in Las Vegas.
That's right. Yeah, which is a fantastic area. I've enjoyed my time there. They have one of those bars that like goes up 150 feet in the air.
Oh, the balloon.
Yeah, and you could sort of have a drink up there. They had a fantastic thing I've talked about here on the show, Lost Spirits Distillery, which is no longer there. But Meow Wolf is there as well. But this is going to be pretty exciting, man, because I'm excited for this type of thing. I love Halloween Horror Nights, and to get it year round, like Arthur Levine was saying, with some of the exact houses that were in Orlando, then going, to be year round in Las Vegas, and the fact that you can go and have like a bar that's there, a restaurant that's there, it's all immersive, all inclusive. It really sounds great. I'm excited.
Yeah, I would recommend to anybody who's listening to the podcast, do what I do and set up some flight alerts with Google Flights, because you can fly direct from a major airport to Vegas for like $60-$70
sure
round trip,
especially from your area of the country.
Yeah, I mean, if you're anywhere near an international airport, you can fly to Vegas pretty cheap. So make those alerts and then fly out on a Friday night, go to Area 15, do your trip report to Coaster Radio, and then fly home on Sunday night. That's what we want to hear.
It's fun, man. It's a fun place. And there's so much going on besides. Like, you don't have to go to the Strip. You don't have to go gambling. There's stuff everywhere to do. Like, and I mean, you don't even have to waste your money gambling. My friends get mad at me because I used to be like really into playing blackjack and stuff. But now I go and I'm like, I don't want to lose my money. Like, I want to go, like, if I'm going to spend money, I'm going to go spend it on some fun things to do, like at Area 15 or, a tiki bar.
I'm going
or something
to the tiki bar.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So,
right.
Anyway.
Cool.
So, look, let's take a break. When we come back, we've got Nick Huston standing by. Nick, longtime friend of the show, has done many great things creating music for all types of attractions. We'll talk to him about that. But also, like we said at the top of the show, he's been traveling. He was in the Middle East, went to a bunch of fantastic parks, has some great stories, I know, about attractions that we have all heard about. But like, I'm excited because Nick's going to talk about some attractions that I've never heard people like talk about in person, so that's going to be fun. Like, you can read like little things and see TikTok videos and stuff, but to have somebody describe it who was there is going to be great. So I know I'm looking forward to that. I hope you guys are too, and we will do it right after this.
This is Coaster Radio. Welcome back to the 20th anniversary season of Coaster Radio. Here are your hosts, Mike Collins, and EB.
Welcome back, everybody, to the original theme park podcast. You are listening to Coaster Radio. My name is Mike. I am here with my friend EB, and we are going to be joined by our friend Nick Huston from the UK. EB, isn't it like 6 or 7 hours ahead or something like that? Like, we record pretty late, so he must be like drinking the coffee, staying up late to be with us, I guess.
That's right. It's a very special visit from Nick. But Mike, there was one thing that you found that you're excited about that you wanted to tease sort of for maybe an upcoming episode of Coaster Radio.
Yes.
An interview, or maybe just we want to review this thing. This is wild. We talked about this on the show years ago. What is there's a documentary coming out now about this?
Yeah, so do you remember years ago there was all this talk about an animatronic figure from Epcot that was missing. And it was this big thing on the internet, everybody trying to figure out what was going on, and it was the Buzzy animatronic from, I guess, like the Wonders of Life Pavilion. I don't know.
Nobody knows what that is except giant Disney nerds, but it was a big deal.
Yeah. And so then people can go and do the research and stuff, but then it turns out maybe this one dude had it or didn't have it, and the police brought him in and they released the footage of him.
He was stealing lots of stuff. Like, he would wait. He worked at Disney, but then he would like hide in the park and steal stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot, and none of it's known. It's all kind of like shady and mysterious, and nobody really knows what's going on. But what I'm excited about is there's a new documentary from Bright Sun Films. It's called Stolen Kingdom, and it's going to tell the whole story of this with interviews with the guy who allegedly was involved. There's all types of stuff, but it's going to go into like the seedy underworld of people who want this type of thing. And there's a story, I was reading about it in Forbes. That's where I learned about the article, the documentary coming up.
Oh my gosh.
And supposedly the guys who did this documentary kind of went undercover and had like fake screen names and stuff. And they met up with somebody who went backstage and they found the animatronic of the lady pirate, the red-haired pirate. And the one guy's on the phone, talking to people like, I found the pirate. How much do you want for it?
Oh, no.
All this stuff. So I cannot wait.
And what do you want to do with it?
Yes, right. Yeah, that's true.
I see exactly where this is going. So this is like obsessed, creepy Disney stuff.
Yeah,
there's a documentary coming out?
It is coming out. It's actually going to be at a film festival. Which film festival is it here? Let me get it. So in case.
I think it's Creepy True Crime Festival.
Yeah, it's going to premiere at Montana's Big Sky Documentary Festival, and then the Slam Dance Film Festival. So
all right, we have had documentarians on this podcast in the past. Coaster Radio has talked to people who have made amazing documentaries about the parks. Also creepy fictional videos.
That's right. That's true too.
We got to get this guy on the podcast and talk about this thing.
That's right. Also, something else we're working on, EB, I haven't even had a chance to talk with you about this, but there's a stand-up comedian based here in DC, and he tours all over the country. He is trying to do something, and we got to bring him on the show because it's interesting. This is sort of like a member of the GP, but he's a stand-up comic traveling. He wants to ride 100 roller coasters in 2025, and he's documenting this on social media as well as doing stand-up comedy everywhere. So
wow,
he has agreed to come on the show and tell us what he's doing.
I love that. That is a very reasonable challenge. 100 is quite achievable.
Yes,
but with effort.
Yes, and I think
like
so
that
far
a lot.
We're in mid-February now. I think he's got 13 already, and that's pretty good when the parks aren't open totally.
Yeah, that is really good.
So anyway, so what he's going to do is come on every now and then and tell us about his quest, and we're going to follow him throughout the year and see if he can get to 100 by December. So
this is good. This is the stuff we're working on. Okay, good.
Yeah, good stuff. And speaking of working on things, we've been wanting to talk with Nick Huston, composer, podcaster, content creator for a long, long time. Nick, I think the last time he was on the show was when we were at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, right? Because he showed up to the meetup there, and we interviewed him there as well. But Nick has been on our show, EB, for a long, long time, right? We've known him forever.
Oh, he's been a great fan of CoasterRadio.com and a good friend of the podcast. And he's been a contributor. He wrote Coaster Boy the Musical. And Mike, he we want to catch up with Nick and kind of tell that story again for new listeners, but then also talk to Nick about his trip report to the Middle East, to parks, like we said before, we're probably never going to get to, and you listeners maybe are not going to get to. So let's kind of live through Nick's experience, and welcome to the podcast right now, longtime friend Nick Huston.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be back, and looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, this is going to be so much fun. So longtime listeners of the show know that you have been a fan of ours, and we have been a fan of yours for a long time. You are one of those listeners that we talk about who found the show when you were young, and then we have followed you as you've grown into a career in the parks. Isn't that right?
I found the show when I was younger, I think might be a nice way. And I remember specifically, I was at university, and the episode I found didn't have you and Mike in it. It was the one with, I think, Coaster Mum and Kevin. Sorry, Coaster Mom and Kevin, when you were rained off or something like that, and they kind of stepped in and kind of took over for an episode. I thought, this isn't very good. So I didn't. So I kind of went, oh, okay, well, I guess that's it for Theme Park Podcast. And then I found the show proper, and it was liberating and a true life-changing experience for me, because I've now been doing my musical theatre podcast for 19 years.
Yes.
So it's just kind of ever so slightly behind you guys.
No, so from the very beginning. Now, this is, I do remember that. I think you've told that story before.
Yeah.
Maybe when we've talked previously about how the first time you listened, it wasn't even an episode that Mike and I were on. One of those guest episodes, an early experiment that we were doing with having guest hosts and guests take over the show and that sort of thing. That's awesome. But I'm glad that you gave it a second effort and found it. And like you said, I feel like that we've kind of come along a podcast journey together somewhat. This is great.
We have, and it's been it's changed my life, and I'm sure it's changed your life and Mike's life as well. And we're just so lucky now that podcasts have become massive. I think you've done a lot better with your podcast than I have with mine when it comes to kind of making the most of it. But it's we all do it for free tickets, don't we? That's what you've always said, isn't it?
That's right. And you have your musical theater podcast, but you also, for a little while there, you had your own theme park and roller coaster podcast, right? ERT.
I still do the ERT on the Season Pass podcast. So I guess
on Season Pass now. Yes, great.
Yeah. So I guess I've been doing that podcast for probably the same amount of time, I would think. Mike was one of my earliest guests.
Yes.
Which was lovely. We talked about that was on Musical Talk. We talked about theme parks and musical theatre and how they're linked. I
think he was on ERT also, and you guys were talking about and then I was a guest on one of your episodes early on.
Yeah.
But that was like 15 years ago. It's funny to talk about podcasts in the context of dates, double digits years ago.
Teens at the end of it.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of, so your work blending music and parks, you compose music for the parks. You've been doing this now for a long time, again, over a decade at this point. Is that right? Professionally.
Correct. Yes.
So cool.
Professionally. And started small with a park in Malaysia called Sunway Lagoon. Mm-hmm. And for them, for that company, eventually ended up doing Ghostbusters, which featured Mike, which was good fun, and various other many projects. I think I've probably done over 60 theme park projects in my career already, which is quite nice. And
your website is Nick Huston Music. Nick Huston, that's Hutson music.
T for Tango, SON at nickhudsonmusic.com. Yeah.
.com. And people can go and they can kind of see your CV there and your long list of projects that you've worked on. But I don't want to talk about any of them except for the two that Mike and I that we're most excited to be a part of. You mentioned the Ghostbusters attraction. Was that Six Flags Mexico?
That was Six Flags Mexico.
And it was a laser tag, right?
It was a laser tag, and it was my friend Dom, who worked for a company called Sudden Impact Entertainment, and we were looking for a voiceover person, and I thought, I know someone who does a good Lewis Tully impression, so I gave Mike a call, and he responded quicker than usual, which is quite good for him.
That's great. And we'll probably dig that up, and we'll play that maybe here in a little bit, because I think it's So it's laser tag, and there's like 4 or 5 minutes to play the game laser tag.
Yeah.
But then Mike drops little quotes in, like,
He does.
goes to the traveler.
Yeah.
Hey guys, who brought the dog?
He signed me.
I am Vince Clortho, Keymaster of Gozer.
I am the gatekeeper.
And then he does like the countdown at the end, I think,
Yeah,
right? Is in the Lewis Tully voice.
Yeah. So sadly, it's not
so
around
fun.
anymore, but it was great fun to do it, and a kind of my first kind of attraction linked to a brand. And Sony were involved with it, and obviously very heavily linked with Ghostbusters and for a great park like Six Flags Mexico or Cedar Point Mexico, whatever the hell they're called now. And yeah, it was a great fun project to work on. It was lovely to kind of have help from Mike as well.
And then the other one that Mike and I were both cameoed with, where you did all of the audio design for Thorpe Park's Fright Nights one year, and you've done that for a couple of years now, right?
It was that was in 2018.
Okay.
And then I redid stuff for them in 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. I can't remember what happened yesterday, EB, to be honest. But yeah, so we redid their radio show that is a kind of 50s New England radio show that plays in their Amity area. And I thought, we need a cheesy American DJ who's always positive, and there's no one more cheesy and more positive than Mike. So got him involved, and he really hit the ball running.
It's Big Bob, it's Big Bob, it's Big Bob's radio show.
You're back with Big Bob here on the wonderful WWTP Radio, where we love to hear from our listeners. And I've got a letter and photograph here from a Mrs. You Are Gonna Die. The photo is slightly blurry, but looks like a smiling photo of Miss Gonna Die covered in what appears to be some kind of red paint. She sure does look pleased with herself. And she says, Bob, if you don't shut up and submit to fear, I am gonna tear your heart right out. Well, that's just so sweet to have such big fans. I'd love to tear your heart out too. But sadly, I don't think Mrs. Jones back home would be too pleased to hear about that. Anyway, I'm sending you a WWTP Radio Fun Pack, a signed photo of yours truly, and all my best wishes for your future decorating. Enjoy!
WWTP Radio.
And then you got involved. You, I believe, recorded your section in a hotel room under a duvet cover or something like that, didn't
That's
you?
right. I do remember that. Yes. That was my sound booth.
It's time to meet another one of our wonderful Amity Cove residents through the power of the radio waves. Caller, you're on the air. What do you got for us today?
Bob? Please, Bob, I don't know where else to turn. They're here. Please, you gotta help us.
And just who is they, caller?
It's fear. Fear. Please.
Well, it sounds like that caller was enjoying one heck of a party.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of the people that is still, you've talked about this, I still go back and listen to all the odd episodes, and it's really interesting to kind of hear how things have changed. And I've just got to the kind of end of the COVID era, and just so fascinating to hear what will happen with the parks. Will they open? Disneyland's about to open, but they're only opening like these rides and things. And it's just so, you are my little comfort blanket, if that makes sense. And I feel very comfortable saying that after all these years, because it's so true. I think I've listened to you on many continents in many forms of transport and things, and it's just so nice to be on the show and to be a friend of the show. So thank you.
That's great. No, well, we appreciate everything that you've done for us. Early on, you were very much inspired to create Coaster Boy the musical. If people want to find that, it's what you can just find the ERT podcast episode 3, and you can listen to it still.
If people
it's
want
out there.
if people want to find that, you're very welcome to, but I don't advise it.
But you mentioned COVID, and you followed up Coaster Boy the musical, I feel like, with Theme Park Fan the musical. I mean, this is something that you've done now over 10 years later, 10 years of experience under your belt. And this was something, can you describe this project to people? Because people probably haven't, I don't think we've talked to you since you made this. This was a COVID project, and you put a lot of people together to create this thing.
I did. It was every year the UK theme park community gets together for the opening of Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and obviously the year was the winter of 2021. I think it was actually 5 years ago, nearly to the very it was February we released it, and we couldn't do that. So I thought, well, let's do a musical about all the theme park people getting together at Blackpool and make that the social event. So we released it at the time we all would be in Blackpool. So it was a Saturday night. We released it and everyone got around their computers, and it felt like a real kind of community event. And I wrote the majority of it, but I had some friends help me. And the album's out there if you guys want to listen to it. It's great fun. It's a bit meta in its references. It's very British, so some of the American people might not get it, but we had some feedback from Americans who absolutely loved it. The message is very, very relatable. It's got hip hop, it's got gospel, it's got rock, it's got theme park parodies in it. It's got a kind of 80s hair metal, and it just was really, really good fun to do, and I'm still immensely proud of it.
Got a new GoPro for opening day, ready to vlog and ready to say, let's study next year's plans with theme park fans on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, I think anybody who is a fan of this stuff or considers themselves to be an enthusiast of any sort, this is going to be a piece of unique content that you have never heard before. You can go and you can find plenty of reviews or POV videos or even parody videos and podcasts. There is only 1 hour-long musical with multiple voices about being a theme park fan. And it is not just a musical set in a theme park or a musical it is theme park fandom as a musical.
Yeah. And also the kind of rise of wanting to be an internet celebrity and what it kind of, and how it can damage you in a way.
Oh, there's songs about like getting the perfect POV and having to blog things. Oh, it's great. Yes.
But also the highlight for us was, and again, thanks to you guys, Mr. Neil Patrick Harris also appears.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A very tiny cameo in the musical in a kind of blink and you'll miss it way. But that was a joy to have him involved. And why not? Because who else would be in a musical about theme parks other than NPH himself?
Absolutely. All right. So the 2 reasons we wanted to bring you on was, number 1, to catch up and see how everything was going and to share, where you're at in your career and the music with the listeners. The other thing is the major trip report that you're about to give us. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the work that you do with the parks. If you could just tell us, because I know people are listening and they're like, wait, how does he do this? Can you step us through a project, maybe either a recent project specifically or just broadly with all of the projects that you've worked on? What is the process of you getting do you get invited to do something, or do you go out and you respond to a request for proposals? And then how do you collaborate with the parks? And step us through your we do not have composers listening to this podcast, that many of them, I think. And so understanding the process of, here's a themed area or a pizza shop or a station that I have to make music for. And how do you do that? Tell us how it works.
There is no right way to answer that question, sadly. It's all...
Then you can't get it wrong.
All right. As you know, within the creative industry, it is a lot of it is down to who you know. A lot of it is down to cost. And a lot of it is down to kind of, well, he's done this for our company, so let's get him to do this for our company. So my most recent project, I was thrilled to be asked by my friend Alex to come on board to do some new music for the SeaWorld San Diego Halloween event, their Hallowscream last year. And they wanted some music for 2 scare zones and some vignettes they had going around the park. So kind of like little show scenes. And I wrote a song which was sung live by this guy warning of kind of what lies beyond. So I got to write lyrics for that as well, which was great fun. And the great thing about doing this is it's the best training for any composer because you don't know what you're going to be asked to do. So you could have a request. I've done everything from like pirate escape rooms to African music to Chinese music, Japanese music, French music, German music, and it's such a fun like, oh, what's this gonna be? So that the kind of general process is collaboration and communication are the most important thing. Once you've worked out the cost, of course, which is what is always the most difficult thing because they say, we want you to do music. Okay, how much do you charge? I said, well, depends
What's
what
your
you
budget?
want. But yeah, but what do you charge? I said, well, do you want a 1-second piece of music on a xylophone or do you want a 90-minute piano concerto? I said, don't know, but how much do you charge? So it's all kind of finding that middle ground. Once you sorted that out, you'll tend to get a theme booklet with audio description for the attraction, whether it's a haunt or an attraction itself, whether it's a dark ride or a flat ride. Some people go into more detail than others, but you always have to deliver what the park wants, whether you think that's correct or not. And that's the difficult thing is, it's much like when a director comes in with a composer on a film and the composer's job is to extend the director's vision to deliver the emotional impact that music can do. And I love doing that because I love creating atmosphere with music. I think theme parks are the perfect place to do that. And I've spoken at length about this with other podcasts and interviews, so I'm just repeating myself, but it is kind of that difficult thing of you have to create a mood immediately because no one stands and listens to that full 45-minute loop. So there is no beginning, there's no middle, and there's no end. It has to be the same mood for the whole piece. And that's quite difficult sometimes, especially when you're dealing with a half-an-hour loop, which some of the SeaWorld stuff was. It's like, this is really repetitive, but you can't think of it as repetitive because you're not listening to the whole thing in the park. You're walking through it. So you will hear 3 minutes of a 30-minute piece, and those 3 minutes have to be encompassing of the piece's requirements, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, that's really
no,
interesting.
it doesn't make any sense.
No, it does, because I can imagine, thinking about my own experiences in the park, if I went to a haunt and then somebody says, oh, how was it? Well, this part over here was really spooky. I'm going to call it spooky because of the entire sensory experience. And if you've got a 30-minute piece, but there's like a 5-minute part where it's like creepy and the rest of it's spooky, well, it was supposed to be spooky the whole time. Right.
Exactly. It works.
Yeah.
And the SeaWorld stuff is great because it was kind of a lot of folky horror in there. And it was kind of Atlantis, that there was an Atlantis show which was more ethereal, and then it builds and builds and builds until the kind of big finale moment. And there was also a kind of a haunted New England shipping village. So it was kind of lots of bells dinging and creepy violins screeching away, but it kind of had this kind of moments of beauty, but to kind of represent that this town was once very attractive, but all the sea monsters have taken over it. So you're kind of ebbing and flowing with the kind of beauty and horror to kind of give that things were once good, but now they're not anymore.
Can you tell us about where you are right now in your mindset for what you want to do next? Are you looking ahead at attractions and like, ooh, I wish I could get, the call to do that one? Or, we do have people who, work in the parks listening to the podcast. So this is your opportunity to pitch like, hey guys, let me make the music for this.
please let me make the music for this because I enjoy what I do, and I like to think I bring my knowledge of theme parks and music into all my projects, and I think that's a kind of USP because you might just get a composer who's like, yeah, I'll do the music. I don't understand how rides work, but I'll do what you want. But I like to say, okay, so how does the pre-hold state loop work when the guests are waiting to come into the pre-show? What's happening there? So it's kind of I kind of get the technical jargon. I love doing it, and I'm happy to do any music you may need because it's what I do, as you well know, EB.
Are there any attractions that have opened in the last year or maybe are opening in 2025 that you're like, oh man, I could have done that and that would have been fun?
I'd love to have done, I like what Busch Gardens Williamsburg are doing with all the kind of Big Bad Wolf redos, and I'm excited about the Six Flags and Cedar Fair merger. I think that could be very useful. There's an attraction here in Europe called Efteling, and there's a new attraction that they just redone called Dance Macabre, which is a ride all about music. So I wish I could have got involved with that, but a lot of they have their own orchestra at that park, so they're kind of all sorted. It's kind of and I'd love to do some stuff for Disney, but it's difficult to kind of especially when creative people have their own comfort in choosing the same people all the time. It's hard. It is hard to kind of knock the door down. But I'd like to think every project I do is something that shows my skills off more. So we'll see whatever the next project is. And I'm working on a new musical at the moment, which is good fun and kind of sort of theme park related, but not theme park related. And that's all I'll say.
Well, fantastic. And anybody who wants to go check out, samples of your work or see again that whole list of attractions that you've done music for, you've probably heard Nick in the parks. Quite possibly if you get around enough. So go check that out, NickHudsonMusic.com. Now, Nick, the other reason we wanted to have you on was to deliver a trip report. We were just talking with Arthur Levine the last couple of weeks about the parks in the Middle East. You just took a trip out there and visited a few parks, right?
I went to 3 theme parks.
Okay. So, this can just be story time with Nick now, so I'll just let you go here.
Well, I mean, you're a very good question asker, EB, so please do ask questions. But the UAE has always been kind of on my bucket list. So the weather isn't great in England at this time of year, as probably isn't very great for you as well, from what I've seen. But I thought in November, let's go to kind of the low. It's not boiling hot in the UAE. It kind of got to about whatever 34 degrees is. Celsius. You can translate that into your weird American ways, and so it was perfect. It was kind of the 6 days of sun. We didn't see a cloud in the sky for 6 days, and my girlfriend and I, we went to the beautiful Atlantis Palm in Dubai, and it's a hotel that's at the end of this kind of fake palm extension of Dubai, so it's completely surrounded by water. It has the world's largest water park attached to it. It has a 65,000 creature aquarium in the hotel. It has 34 restaurants, 2 swimming pools, and it's one of those places where you just don't want to leave. And I know it's just a hotel, but that's such a big part of a kind of theme park experience.
This is the one that we've seen pictures of from the aerial photo, and they just extended the land in the shape of a palm tree into the yes, and we've all seen this.
This hotel's at the very end. It's the kind of Moroccan-y one with the kind of hole in the middle of the kind of Arabian.
Massive.
Yeah, huge hotel. And it was so exciting to get to stay there. So it was a mixture of beach and pool and sunbathing and resting and let's make Nick happy and go to theme parks for 2 days, which we started with Warner Brothers World, which isn't in Dubai, it's in Abu Dhabi, which is about a 45-minute cab journey away from the hotel. And I've seen videos of this park, the whole reason for this trip was to get on the Scooby-Doo dark ride, which exists in this park, and thankfully got to do it. But this indoor park, I think it's the second biggest indoor park in the world. It was $1 billion to build, just, like everything is out there. And they spared no expense on anything. And it's just weird that you've got a kind of Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey style ride in a building that's also holding roller coasters and other dark rides and a log flume. And just to give you an idea of scale of this building. It's weird in the fact that no one really goes to these parks. They're built for huge crowds, but I don't think queuing is a cultural thing they're really keen on doing over there. You and I are used to it because, it's what we face in our parks, but just the longest we waited at that park was 5 minutes for something, and just there's no one there, and it's quite sad really because the design, a company called Thinkwell did the Warner Brothers park, and it's amazing. You've got this full Gotham City recreation. You've probably seen the videos of the Joker's of the Riddler spinning ride that's coming out of a dilapidated shipyard building that's got its windows smashed, and there's lightning flashing, and they can because it's indoors, they can control all the elements of each area. So when you're in the Acme area, it's constantly sunlight. When you're in Gotham, it's always night. When you're in the main plaza for the park, it goes between daylight and evening light, night light.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's very atmospheric. It's kind of weird. You've got Acme, and then you've got Toon Street, which has a Scooby-Doo ride, and then it has next door to it an indoor Tom and Jerry roller coaster. So really, really, the theming is immaculate.
Mixing their universes, okay.
Exactly, yeah. The Scooby-Doo ride, I want to talk about that because it's so clever, and it really tells a story within about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And I know you don't like the Disney dark rides, EB, that go way too fast because you just like blink and you miss it.
Can't see it. Yeah, can't see every scene. Right.
Whereas this really embraces that every dark ride in the UAE is trackless, whether it needs to be or not. And this really does work to its advantage because each car you're in splits off to help solve the mystery. Because what do they do in Scooby-Doo? They all split up, gang. So
funny. Okay.
You actually go off and one car will see Fred, one car will see Velma, who can't find her glasses, and one car will see Shaggy, and one car will see, and they all have a kind of show scene, and you all meet in the middle, then you all carry on, then you all go off and kind of try and help solve the mystery. And they do have a corridor chase scene in the ride, which is very cool. Because at one point, another vehicle enters the chase scene and it's got Shaggy and Scooby on it. And that's the kind of really clever use of trackless ride vehicles. So that was the reason we went, and we're glad we got on that ride. Then you have the kind of Hall of Justice. There has a full-scale Hall of Justice ride building.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if folks are joining us here, we can see this live now here. On Wednesday night, this is there's a sky that obviously is lights and projection and whatnot, but and it's evening because I guess we're in the DC Comics area, but there is a Hall of Justice right there, just like you would see in a Six Flags park. Oh, and there's inside the Hall of Justice with all of the statues. We see similar things like that in Six Flags, but not as pretty as this, not as big as this.
It's just, you do feel like you're just walking around a film set, because it's done by people that design films, and they have the Batman the Batman kind of Harry Potter-esque ride, which has a really unique loading system in the fact that, unlike Harry Potter, where it's the continuous conveyor belt system, you go into a little room and they're getting your kind of bat vehicle ready, and then the doors open and there's just one vehicle there and you get in it. So you really feel like you're on your own little journey with your group of friends. And then it takes off and you spend an awful lot of time on your back. It's obviously not as advanced as the kind of American counterparts, but it's just nice that these kind of rides exist outside of America because they need more love and need more guests. So there's a log flume themed to the Flintstones, which is really quite adorable. There is a Joker Funhouse, which is not a dark ride or a scare maze. It's just a funhouse.
Oh, great. Like a walk-through funhouse?
Just a walk-through funhouse. Very traditional, really, really well themed, and just different. And just so nice that these properties are done well somewhere else. Just to give you an idea of the scale of that building, EB, if you look at that, that's the Riddler's. It's essentially a disco coaster, but because it's in theming, as we've always said, theming helps everything. Control the lighting, control the sound, control the lighting effects. It's over water, which you can't see, but there is kind of water there.
Like you said, it looks like a warehouse at a shipyard, and there's buildings in the background, and then there's a skyline behind that. Yeah. We see the stanchions or the bollards that are there on sort of the cobblestone walkway with crates and barrels and things. And then there's this disco that comes out of the building and then goes into the building. The atmosphere, like you said, must just be incredible. Like we were talking about with you making the music and things like that. When you're in this space, I'm imagining that you really can feel like, I mean, you're never going to fool yourself and think you're at an actual shipyard, but describing it like you feel like you're on a film set. Absolutely. I can feel like you're just immersing yourself into this fantasy world.
Yeah. You hear, I mean, you can see the speakers in the picture. They have the water trickling sounds. They have the kind of creaking of the dock as if there were that there. It has the music, obviously. Sadly, this ride couldn't operate because there were so few people in the park. They couldn't get enough people to get on the ride to make its way round the track. So, and it's such a shame because it's so amazing. The theming is just incredible. That's a picture there of the Flintstones log flume station, which is really adorable. If you kind of like the Flintstones, as you know, we all like the Flintstones. And there is a kind of, this is the photo opportunity on the Scooby-Doo Dark Ride, which I think is rather sweet, a kind of two-way mirror, and it says make a spooky face, and it takes your photograph, which is rather nice.
Showing the photos here, and we'll if you can send us some of these photos, we'll get them up on our Discord so we can share them and let folks see them there too if they're not here live with us Wednesday night at 9:00.
Do it earlier so us foreigners can watch it.
Everything in this park, and I don't know if it's because it's indoors, because they have infinite money, or what, but everything is beautiful and perfect and lovely. Like you would imagine going to a park and there's nobody there, and that park is probably a bad park and in disrepair and not being taken care of. This park looks like it is perfect.
And it's interesting comparing it to the American properties that have the Warner Brothers stuff, whether it's was it the Cedar Fair parks that had Scooby-Doo?
Paramount for a while. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or the Six Flags having the Warner Brothers the
DC and
DC superheroes. It's like
and Looney Tunes.
Cardboard cutout, and then a roller coaster that you can find in another park. Whereas this is all completely unique and just clean. Everything is so clean, and you feel so safe there because crime is seen as a terrible, terrible thing there. You can just, at the water park, we just left our phones in our bags on the kind of wooden shelving and just walked off for 6 hours and came back and our phones were still there. You feel so safe. So if listener, you are thinking about doing the trip, I do urge you to go there for the parks because it's just it's just wonderful. There's a picture of the
the other ride vehicle in the
yeah.
Scooby-Doo with actually Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. That's great.
Next door to this park is a park called Ferrari World.
Yes.
Which I hadn't planned on going to because I didn't know it was 3 minutes, a 3-minute walk away. And there was one particular ride there called Mission Ferrari.
Yes.
Which was kind of, I would have kicked myself if I'd not gone to get on this ride. And we'd done Warner Brothers. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. And we'd done it all. We'd done Scooby-Doo 5 times. We thought, let's go and go to this other park. So we Ubered across the way to get to Ferrari World. My girlfriend Hannah's a massive fan of Ferrari, so it was no problem to her. She's not a big coaster person, but she's getting there. And we got to this park, and I knew Mission Ferrari had issues. And it was very temperamental as to whether it's open. Sadly, Formula Rossa, the world's fastest roller coaster, wasn't open, and I was prepared for that. But I got to the park entrance, and I said, "Is Mission Ferrari open?" And the woman just said, "I don't know. It wasn't earlier. Just you have to go and check." So I went to the entrance, and it was closed, EB.
Oh no! Formula Rossa was closed too. The
Formula Rossa was closed, but that's been closed for a while. It's open now, which is great for the park. So I was prepared not to get on that. But this is kind of one of those 4DX coasters that goes sideways and it goes forwards and it goes backwards and it tilts and it does all that kind of stuff, and it's indoors and it's themed and it has a storyline. So that's more my thing than just getting on the world's fastest roller coaster. So,
I'm looking at pictures of this one now, and I remember this. This is only a couple of years old, and it's not a single rail track, but it looks like it's single rail, and the ride vehicle is the size of a Ferrari.
Yeah, and it was sat there dormant for 8 years.
Yes,
this is a very complicated ride, and so we got on a ride called. So we thought, okay, it's not opening, fine. Then we got on a ride called Turbo Track, which is just a weird Intamin launched roller coaster where you have, I think, 4 people facing forwards and 4 people facing backwards, and it just kind of goes up a spike and then comes back again. And we got off that, and Hannah wanted a photograph of her because she triumphed by getting on this ride. So I said, okay, we'll take a photograph. And I was waiting for the car to kind of come up the spike. And she said, it's going. I said, yeah, I know. I'm waiting to take the... No, the red one. I said, what, with people on it? She went, yeah. So I ran quicker than I have ever run, and I'm not a runner. And I ran to that ride entrance and I got in that queue. This was at 4:15 in the afternoon. Then an announcement came on that said, at 4:30, this ride will close for its daily scheduled maintenance.
Oh, no.
And I thought, you just opened.
You just did maintenance on it, I'm assuming.
So, like, I was at the front of the queue waiting to get on it at 4:29, and they just said, we're closing for half an hour. You're welcome to stay here. Well, I wasn't going to leave. I travelled many, many thousands of miles to come here, so I can wait half an hour.
Right.
And just before 5 o'clock, the ride opened, and I did it twice.
Nice.
And I felt such a smug bastard because it's like it's the rare cred in the world. This is kind of that elusive ride that you might get or you might not get, and hopefully the reliability improves. But it doesn't help that the ride manufacturer aren't around anymore. I think Intamin step in now and kind of take over the operating of it. But it's a wonderful, wonderful ride. The pacing's a bit odd because it kind of will go into an element and then the car has to kind of lock in its position, and then the computers say, right, play the media. So you're kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs.
Right, because there's dark ride moments, right, with screens.
The whole thing is a dark ride. Lots of screens, but lots of physical effects. There's animatronics, there's lasers flying through the air. There's kind of cars that explode in slow motion in front, real kind of set pieces. So it's that wonderful mix of media and practical, which is so satisfying. Done well. I've nothing wrong with media, but when it's blended with practical, that's even more exciting.
And what is the story of Mission Ferrari that you're just
ridiculous?
And is with both parks, were they in English? Were they in multiple languages? Was it that sort of situation?
Everything is in English. They all speak English. All the narration and dialogue in the rides is English, because it's the main language there. It was weird being in the Abu Dhabi Mall. On one side, there's a British food shop called Marks and Spencer's, and then opposite that is a cheesecake factory. So it's like it really is the blending of kind of the Western culture meets Eastern culture.
Okay. So you could follow along the bizarre story.
You could follow the story. You are recruits, of course, because in every theme park attraction, you have to be a recruit or an agent or something like that, whilst you sit passively and save the day. So we were kind of going through the Italian hills in a new prototype of a Ferrari that some people are trying to steal, effectively.
Okay.
At that point, you just go, okay, whatever, and just throw whatever you have at me, and it's really, really good fun. And I just feel so lucky to go on it, because I didn't wake up that day knowing I would get on it, because I hadn't planned to go to the park. I booked the tickets 5 minutes before we went in, so it wasn't planned. You're like me, EB. I think you love an itinerary and you love to kind of plan things out and try to get things as cheaply as possible. But the parks aren't cheap there, I will say, but you do get your money's worth because they're quiet, and because the quality of it is excellent. Then the next day, we went to Motion Gate Dubai, which is part of a bigger complex, and it wasn't as good as Warner Brothers, I will say, because it's a very odd park in the fact that it has a weird kind of... This is the park with the Hunger Games roller coaster.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This is, and it's on a working movie studio. This park, right?
It might well be. That's news to me. I'm not sure about that, but it wouldn't surprise me knowing Dubai. But it's kind of, it's part of the Dubai's Parks and Resorts development. So there's a Legoland there, and there's a big SeaWorld there, and there's the weird park that was Bollywood that now is Real Madrid, because that makes sense. And we went to Motion Gate purely because of much like the Warner Brothers indoor park, there's a land in the park, which is another indoor park, which is the DreamWorks land. So it's like a mini park in a park. And it has an excellent Shrek dark ride, which was, again, the reason for wanting to go to that park. But it's got weird things like a Smurf land, which is cute, and it has a very adorable dark ride where you go around their movie studio. And it also has, as I said, the Hunger Games land, and then it has Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs Rapids.
Yes, I remember when. Yes, okay,
So it's like they kind of find or the 4D powerball. You know, the kind of coasters that go up and then kind of slide down like a marble run, effectively, and you're sitting on both sides.
4D, yeah, an SNS free spin. Yeah.
Why not theme it to John Wick?
Yes. Okay. I'm looking at it right now. The John Wick open contract. I do now. I'm remembering. I'm remembering when this park opened and being like, that's a weird mix of IP. So you've got Smurfs and you've got DreamWorks. You've got John Wick, and there's a Now You See Me.
The Now You See Me coaster,
the magic.
Was
the magic
great
movies.
Yeah, and if you've seen that film, it kind of makes sense, but they're missing, no pun here, they're missing a trick with this ride, because you queue backstage at the kind of Vegas theater, you get on the roller coaster, it's a marathon spinner, which I do enjoy those, and then you get off. Have you seen the film, EB?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You get off and you're in New York.
Okay.
Now, what would be even cleverer if they put the ride indoors and had literal smoke and mirrors and lights just to really hypnotize you? Then you get off and then you're in New York. And if you know the film, you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
But these two rides were meant to have been at the Six Flags park that was planned for this development but never got built. So they had two roller coasters to work with. The John Wick queue, and I will say the John Wick queues are incredible. I haven't seen the film, but you go through the hotel room by room with marble floors, 20-foot high rooms, pillars, staircases, and then you're kind of plonked outside and you're sitting on this concrete-based roller coaster. So it's like they have all the money for the queue, and then the ride is just get on the ride. There is a beautiful how to train your dragon roller coaster in the DreamWorks land, which is much like the Arthur ride at Europa Park, which is the Mac-powered suspended coaster / dark ride system. And that's an excellent ride. The Shrek dark ride is wonderful because it does that very clever thing of making use of a limitation. So in the fact that in Shrek 3, there's a puppet show.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is that puppet show, but it's telling the story of Shrek 1. So when you're on the ride, you see the workings of the puppets and all the kind of flat wooden theatrical sets that would be in a children's puppet show. It's just massive in scale. So you see all the kind of the arms on their, the mechanisms of how they would work, but it's still incredibly well done. Trackless, you veer off into different paths at different points. The dragon makes an appearance. It's a really, really spectacular dark ride, and it's the ride that Shrek's always needed, because I don't think it's something Universal have ever truly delivered well on.
And this is the ride that you were going to the park for. This is the one that you were anticipating the most.
This is one we went on, and we got to the park, and the woman at the turnstile said it's going to be busy today, so you might want to upgrade to a queue skip pass, because there were about 1,000 school kids going in.
Okay.
And that's busy for them. And
right, I was going to say, like, busy for who?
Yeah. we were going into the How to Train Your Dragon ride, and this kid runs out saying, don't go, it's full. As I was looking at an empty cattle pen, saying, okay. And we walk, and there were about 15 people in the queue. So that's why I kind of meant they obviously don't queue over there, and they're not prepared to kind of be bothered for it.
Waiting in line is not something they have any interest in. So they build 3 amazing parks that close to each other.
Yeah, with most elaborate queues. I mean,
well, and everything and everything else that was in Dubai. I mean, were you able to do other things while you were there? I mean, you could spend months and not go outside of an hour radius and never get bored.
My friend Jordan, who has a wonderful blog called Cupcakes and Coasters, because I was chatting to her about Dubai and saying, a bit nervous and blah, blah, blah. She said, don't be. It's Orlando in the desert. That's all it is. Because it's we only saw Dubai, the city, as we were driving from the airport to the hotel, but it has an 80-foot golden photo frame that you can walk through and up as a kind of viewing platform. It has probably the world's largest observation wheel, the world's largest building, and it's just so ridiculous in its grandeur and opulence. When we went down for breakfast the first morning of our hotel, someone had to give us a tour because there was so much, because it's a kind of melting pot of all these different countries that come there on holiday. You had the continental station, the Indian station, the Chinese station, where they had ducks cooked ducks for breakfast, and they had the chickens, and they had someone whose sole job it was to make you a bespoke omelette, and they had the egg stage, and it's just, this is the most amazing place, and it was so friendly and so safe, and there are more places to do theme parks in the world than just America and Europe, and that's what was so lovely about finding that out on the trip.
Well, and unique and different things, or that we can't find in Europe or the US, but familiar themes.
Exactly.
And it, in many ways, like you've said, done better.
Yeah. Well,
than we can experience.
You do kind of sit there and think, why is there a drop tower themed to, what was the film, the kind of zombie film set in a theme park? Was it
Zombieland?
Zombieland. There's a Zombieland drop tower.
Sure.
Much like the drop tower in the film that's at Kennywood or wherever they filmed it. So it's just bizarre. But the thing is, no one goes to the parks because either it's too hot or it's too busy, because when it gets cooler in there, that's their kind of busy season. So the locals just don't go. And they aren't cheap. I said that from the beginning. You're talking about sort of more than $100 to get into one of these parks for the day. But it's worth it. So if you're traveling, be really cool to do. And funny story, I was about to get on the Smurf ride, and I emailed Mr. Neil Patrick Harris and said, "Are you in this ride? Because that would be kind of neat." and he responded saying, "I don't know. Let me know."
That's awesome. And was there is it the Smurfs movie? Is Neil Patrick Harris in the Smurfs ride?
It's sadly not. It's a very adorable dark ride set in the kind of Smurf movie studios. So they're making a movie, and it's got some great visual gags in it. But the weird thing is they're very, very strict over there with glasses and loose items. And they had what's probably a Vekoma Junior roller coaster, the most basic thing, goes up about 15 feet and then does the circuit and then goes back to station and does it again. We were on it, and someone got their phone out and was filming it as they were going up the lift hill. And
kiddie coaster,
the announcement said, "Phones away, phones away, phones away." And it did the course once, got into the station, stopped, and the ride host went to the person filming, made her delete the POV footage.
Oh.
And kind of gave her a telling off, and then sent the ride round once more. And thought that's such a weird kind of thing to be strict about filming on a really, really kind of tame kiddie coaster.
Yeah, I imagine if you looked around, you might catch more things like that in Dubai, where it's like, any place that has gigantic golden towers and empty amusement parks, there's probably a shady underbelly somewhere where they're taking people's phones and throwing them in dungeons for taking on-ride videos.
It was just odd to see, and they're very kind of, I like their idea of Ferrari World. They did this. If you have glasses like I do, they give you goggles to put over your glasses so you can still wear them. But they don't fly off, which I thought was a lovely idea. But I kept saying, I've got the the kind of the nerd strap, we call them, that keeps you keep the sports kind of keeps you the sports straps of glasses. And I said, well, we got it. And I said, "Oh, you have the ropes." So it became kind of known as "We have the ropes."
We've got the ropes.
We got the ropes. So that's kind of our little theme park trip to Dubai, and I just wanted to talk to you about it to kind of spread the word about other parks.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mike and I have had a conversation like this with anybody that's been out to those parks in person themselves. And so I know there's listeners out there that are curious about these parks. So you've done a great service, I think,
thank you.
to the listeners of CoasterRadio.com. And I know Arthur's listening, and he's probably like, "I've been thinking about it, but you know what? You might have convinced somebody out there, Nick."
I think I've been convincing everyone for the past 2 months to get over there, because it's man-made paradise. It really is. And to see, I was so curious to go just to see a town or city that's built for tourism from the ground up. And everything works. Everything's clean. There's no roadworks because all the roads are built. and they're building more damn roads everywhere, but it doesn't disrupt the daily operations. Everything's efficient, it's clean, the food is excellent. It's a really, really lovely place. And for us, the flight is only about 6 hours, and it's like 3-hour time difference as well. So you don't really get huge jet lag. So it was it's well worth the effort. But you need to come here first, EB.
Yes.
That's the kind of thing that needs to happen this year, I think.
Also been on our list for a long time is the Great Britain coasterradio.com theme park road trip. Absolutely. Well, Nick, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for catching up with us and telling us about your work in the parks, reminding us of all the fun stuff that you've done before, so folks have some things they can hunt down on the internet and enjoy.
Yeah, and regret.
And then and regret some of we do the same thing with some of the early works. It's okay. It's totally fine. But Nick, this has been great. There it is. All right.
You lie.
Thank you, Nick. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, Mike, there you go. What an experience. What an opportunity Nick had to go and experience all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the idea of a park or parks that are just so much on purpose, so there's no lines, I think is my biggest takeaway.
Yes.
Is that let's just build more so there's no lines.
Yeah, like the story that got me the most is that when he was there and he said, "Oh no, it's like a school group there." And like the kid went into the line. He's like, no, it's too many people. And so Nick like went in the queue
Don't even
himself.
bother. The line's really long.
And there were like 10 people in the queue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the people there are don't wait in long lines. That's fascinating. So, but the place is built in a way where there's never a long line.
Well, and that kind of makes sense the way Nick was describing it. Why everything is so incredibly overbuilt.
Yeah,
is because you don't want to wait in lines.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for sharing that with us. You know, you kind of pitched this idea, and it was like, yeah, you've been a longtime friend of the show. We want to catch up with you. This is perfect. So thank you, Nick, so much.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like we talked about at the beginning of the interview, meeting him for real at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. That's what's so funny about this podcast, and for doing it so long. We have so many friends of the show, but many people that we haven't met at all or just met recently, like Arthur Levine. We knew for 15, 20 years and just met him a couple of years ago in person. Same with Nick Huston and, all these different people. So that's what's fun about doing a podcast like this. You can meet people all over the world, but it's really cool when you get to shake hands and, see them in person. Really great.
Absolutely. So, yeah, thank you so much to Nick, and thanks to everybody else for listening to the podcast this week. Thanks for supporting the show at patreon.com/Coaster Radio. We want to say thanks to all of our true friends whose names we're going to read right now. If you're not on this list, patreon.com/Coaster Radio. Thank you to Alex Payne, Brian Wackler, Chris Rankin, Cincinnati Nick the Sweatshirt Guy, our friends at Club Z, Two Bearded Coaster Chris's, CM Venom, Colton Toms, David Sakala, Dino, Grace, John Brody, and John Brown.
Also Josh Combs, Justin Padilla, Karen and Lee Howlren, Kevin Wilson, Kyle Kiefer, our friends at Made to Thrill, Matt Walker, Michael Foucault, Paulo de los Reyes, Rich Barber, Rick Burnley, Shane Mankiewicz, our friends at the Thrill Nerds, Tom from Louisville, and Zachary Carpenter.
Also a shout out to our friend Kyle Lindner of Lindner Design Company, specializing in branding, illustration, and small batch custom apparel. You can find Kyle and his work at Instagrams at Lindner_design. Mike, some of those designs are at our t-shirt shop. You can go to coasterradio.com and find ways to support the show with the referral links for hotels.com and amazon.com, patreon.com/coasterradio. And speaking of Lindner Design Company, who helped us make our new logo, the t-shirt shop, that's at coasterradio.com. Just scroll down the page there and you can find a link to the t-shirts, the sweatshirts, the thong.
Oh my gosh. One has already been bought from what I understand.
We sold one.
Yeah.
We talked about it for like 3 weeks and sold one.
There we
go.
You
asked for it. There are many of you have laughed at that joke and have said, why don't you bring back the thong, guys? I expect everyone who ever made that comment to buy one. Go to coasterradio.com, scroll down, find the Printify coasterradio.com t-shirt shop and buy a thong and buy a hoodie while you're at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw a photo of it in the Discord, EB. Somebody's already bought it and they're showing off pictures.
No.
That's one of the great things about being a Patreon subscriber. You get into Discord.
Fellas, look, what do you think? Pretty good, huh?
Looks good.
Snug around the middle.
It's really good. Hey, you know what else too? If you are a fan of the show and you're listening to it on the audio podcast, you're listening in your car or whatever, you can actually find us on YouTube podcasts right now, where we have a video version of the show. Starting here with season 20, we're putting all of our episodes with video on YouTube podcasts. So even if you are a fan of just listening audio-wise, it would be great to go and check that out and even subscribe to it. We're trying to get more people to know about that. So it would really help us out, like just fans of the show, just to go and like play it a little bit. And then it's going to
bump the numbers up. Yeah, subscribe to it. Smash that bell, Mike.
Yes, there we go, right? Yeah, because the more people subscribing, it starts going to other similar fans of theme parks and stuff. And I don't know, we're looking to expand a little bit here. So I think if you can help us out with that, guys, we'd appreciate it.
Cool.
Yep. All right. Thanks again to Nick Huston for being on the show with us, staying up late. And thanks to all of you guys, too. We will see you next week.
You've been listening to Coaster Radio, the original theme park podcast. To learn more about the show and hear hundreds of episodes from the archives, visit our website at coasterradio.com. This is your announcer, Neil Patrick Harris. Thanks for listening. Peace out, suckers. Coaster Radio is a production of Lift Hill Media, LLC. Audio and video from this program may not be broadcast, edited, or reproduced without our express written permission. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. This was all done in one breath.